Alright, here is the video review for Transformers Masterpiece MP-48 LIO Convoy from Beast Wars 2nd over in Japan. It just says Beast Wars on the instruction manual, but he was over in the Japanese cartoon, which is why he has here in his lion mode. It has kind of more of an anime face here, and it's not the greatest lion mode. I think we can all agree on that. It's not as bad in hand as I thought it was going to be looking at pictures, but it's still, like, when you really, like, if you just kind of glance at it, it's like, yeah, okay, it's a white lion with a golden mane. The more you look at it closely, the more, like, without even accounting for the fact that, like, he's kind of in disguise because of all the clearly visible robot bits and red parts here in alt mode, putting that completely out of mind, the more you look at it, the more the proportions start to mess with your brain. It's not horrible, like, for a glance. And honestly, he's going to spend a lot of his time in robot mode, so I'm not super concerned about it, because his robot mode is very nice. And I talked about how, I mentioned on Twitter, that, like, he's actually, like, very cool, much cooler in robot mode, more of a hassle to fiddle with, and then I actually got out and tried to turn my original LIO Convoy into lion mode, and I forgot, I don't remember the panels popping open and flipping around and being a pain in the butt in the way that they were trying to get this guy set up. But maybe I'm just misremembering. Maybe there's nostalgia, because he's mostly been staying in robot mode on my shelf. But just real quick, here he is with his original toy counterpart, whose knees here are a little weak. He does have a chompy mouth gimmick. There's his head spinny thing, which is kind of cool. And again, an overall slightly cooler looking lion than this one, although admittedly the face here looks, at a glance, looks more like the cartoon here than it does on the old toy. He's got all these panels that flip out. He has all the panels that flip out as well. We'll show those off in a minute. But while his mouth does open, you can open his mouth and show that off. He doesn't have a button pressing gimmick. He doesn't have any sort of launching gimmick. He does have all the missiles that you can recreate, but they don't launch and fire like they did on the original here. But just as a quick comparison, just to give you an idea of how they look. Now, as mentioned, he does come with some bits for his mane. He comes with this little weapon holder that he can either kind of hold in his hand like this, as if he's carrying the missiles. There are some tabs here. He can hold it as kind of a secondary gun in robot mode, which we'll show off when we get there. He also comes with the Cybertron Buster. Again, we'll talk about that. When he gets to a robot mode where he can hold it, you get two sets of missiles. One, it looks like they're the same mold. It's just one only has the tip painted and then has this little detail right here in the middle, left dark gray. Whereas here you can see the detail, the tip's painted as well as the detail in the middle, but the mold itself is the same. It's just a matter of how much of them are painted. You can see that. Anyway, it's a little better. So yeah. And then you can put these in to either place these little panels here on the arms, still flip forward, have a little launcher inside there. Although it's neat that they have like a little molded launcher button, but it is not actually a spring-loaded launcher. So you can put either of the missiles in here, like that, to have him launch them. And then he has up here on his, this actually flips over. These open up either side of his mane here. Yeah, I think you need to flip this up. Rotate this over and around, and then you can open up these panels here and flip out. Make sure this comes up, flips all the way flat. We'll let this fold down a little bit better. Open these up, and you can flip out these launchers. And these launchers you can put, actually any of the launchers you can put any of these weapons in. You can take these missiles, give him like he's got guns here on the main. Have them all armed to the teeth in lion mode. Or you can also use the other set of missiles up in here as well. It's entirely up to you. But so you can give him a couple different armaments here in lion mode. Those back up. Nope. Go down into the, fold them down to the main, fold those up. Bring the main back over and around. Although this is a lot of how we're going to start transforming him to robot mode. It brings a little hair piece forward here, like that, and close these up. He also has his flip-out claws underneath here. They're not spring-loaded like all the other things on the original toy, but he does have some. He can lift his feet up too, have him point a little forward, but he can kind of leap with his claws here as weapons. So he's got some paw rotation here. They're very tight, but he does have, you can see the hinge there, that the tip of the paw can rotate to some degree. It does help if you have the hinge rotated properly. The paws can rotate, the back paws can as well, and that helps a little bit in robot mode as well. Yeah, so the legs technically are posable. They can kind of rotate up here where they attach to the arm. We've got a ratcheting hinge, a leg pose, or leg swivel, ratcheting knees, and then point at the paws. Same with the rear legs, ratcheting there, a thigh swivel, ratcheting knees, although again a little stiff. You got this little ratcheting bit right here. The feet swivel, and then the toes can also rotate like that. Tail's slightly posable, and you can open the mouth. You can, if you want to flare the mane out a little bit, you can, although that does reveal a lot of gobbledygook there in his back of his neck. Got to protect his neck. I'm going to go ahead and put these back into the holder just for the sake of showing it off in robot mode. The only unfortunate thing about the holder is that it only like you can have a full armament, but you will if you want to use both of these and the other two missiles, although you can only have 4 in at a time, it'll hold what you need, but you will always have 2 missiles left over. I put mixed missiles in. I mixed the missiles. But yeah, all right. So on to robot mode, and to talk about this a little bit, let me show off these instructions, because you do get the bio card showing off his stats and all that good stuff. All 10s except for a 9 in Fire Blast. Cool picture of robot mode. We'll get there. The instructions themselves call out all the different weapons and things he can do. The instructions themselves, like, it's hard to describe, and maybe just by scale you can see how big these are. Very small pictures. Like, there's some stuff, especially up in here. There were some steps where, like, there were a couple times when I legit was looking at them and tried to pinch zoom them because I'm an idiot. But also, like, there were some of these things that, like, I needed to look at that I legitimately just took my camera, took a picture of it, and then zoomed in on the picture on my camera so I could see what exactly they were trying to show you was happening, especially in some of these very early bits right here where the shaded bits are covered up by their little drawn arrows, and just trying to figure out exactly if I was even doing all this stuff right. So very, very tiny pictures in black and white grayscale here in the instruction manual. But we got through it. I am keeping the instruction manual over here because I rarely do this transformation in the actual order of the instructions, because there's always a step where it's like, it's easier to just go straight to this versus trying to flip out every single tiny little panel. So we'll start off here. We'll go ahead and lift this up, and then lift this up. This whole assembly detaches where it's pegged in from the butt, but you fold this up into here. All right, yeah, rotate it around, pull this up into here, and then this is going to fold up into here. That's going to be his robot mode shoulder pad. Although you can actually extend this in robot mode for LIO Vute or whatever they're calling it on the instruction manual, but we'll go ahead and get that straight out of the way. Open up his main, and again, take this little center main piece, flip it back here, lift this whole assembly up and around like that. Flip the whole thing up. You want to pull it, like, get it so this piece kind of may get caught sometimes, but this piece should come up and through. And then you rotate this whole assembly around the head. Wait, that's not right. The whole assembly should rotate. Okay, open up this. Okay, open up this. Lift up his jaw. Here we go. Rotate this whole assembly around, like, lift this up like this. Rotate this whole assembly like that. Then you open up his jaw, and then this tab right here flips up. It's hard to see here, but inside his mouth, at the back of his jaw, there's a slot. You open this up, put this over that little bar and into the slot there at the back of the head, and then closes lion head down on it. Kind of bites it to hold it in place. And then you've got this around, rotate it down, bring this down, rotate that back around to be facing the front. You can open up this lion head as well if you wish, although he has no teeth, it's just kind of a mouth. And that's going to be our shoulder piece here when we get around to it. You can go ahead and untab this piece from here and bring, actually we'll bring that around in a minute, but go ahead and untab that from there, get that loose. So down here, we can go ahead, the legs are actually fairly easy. You can go ahead and take care of these right off the bat. Bring those down, bring it down, rotate around here at the thigh. And basically work this double joint until that kneecap sits right where it should. There we go. Rotate the foot around, lift it up, open this up, flip the heel piece around and out. Basically just flatten the foot there. And once again, the same thing. Get that up into there. I want to bring this back and up so it sits right where it should. There we go. And then, like I said, once you're at this point, they're a little tight at first, but you can rotate the toes, angle the toes to flatten his feet. The feet themselves may stand at a slight angle based on how you have everything set up, but you can rotate the toes at least to be flat to the ground. So lift that up. Come under here, unpeg this white piece is actually pegged into his shoulders here. And then once you get the arms loose, you can kind of start untabbing them here and wiggling them loose. Get the arms out of the way here. And once that's done, you can, this is already untabbed, take this whole arm assembly that the lion head is on and rotate it out to the side like that. We'll fold that back in and deal with it in a minute. Flip the head, the robot head up and out. It's going to rotate around like this. You can see some white paint. Again, it's white plastic with white paint. Here, I don't worry about the chips so much, and the red has held up okay. There's a few little chips in the red, especially on the arms, but do be careful because like I said, a chip there on this white paint doesn't bother me, but it's all white painted, so you don't want to risk chipping the outside of the robot mode. But flip that around like that. See, now his head's in the proper place. It's going to come up like this. Bring these panels out and around here like this. And then this whole assembly is going to fold up. Rotate it around here like this. Open up the chest panels. Open up the lower chest panels, the upper chest panels. And you fold all this up into the body. Come on. There we go, like that. And then these should sit flat on the waist. See, there's a little hook there to kind of hold them in place. And then this is going to tab in to the back of the red part. You got to get it all lined up just right. We should probably deal with the arms first anyway. So the arms, bring them down, rotate them up and around like that. Like that. Plug the shoulder in. Like that. So basically this piece is going to come down so the tab is facing forward. Past the head. And then rotate up at this hinge. And then you fold it back so this tab goes into here. And this is where, again, there's a lot of very specific instructions on the order of that. But once you know where everything goes, it's easier to not try to follow the step-by-step there. Bring the arms down so these are out here. And then again, you can fold this up. And it may take a little bit of finagling, but you just plug it in so it snaps onto there like that. And you see there's the whole upper body assembly done. And there you can see the base robot mode. I'll go ahead and get him. He's a little back heavy right now because of everything going on. There we go. Get him to stand here just while I raise this up so we can get the rest of him. So yeah, this piece is going to rotate the arm down, Well, okay. Yeah, also the mushroom pegs, I've had a couple of those. Had that happen with a couple of those. This comes around past here and is going to sit, should rotate on this mushroom peg and not pop off. You want it to rotate around. All right, fine, be that way. There you go. Basically, just get it down so it comes forward like that. You rotate the lion head down and on the armor over his shoulder here. This should come, oh, that came unpegged, that's why. There we go. It should come down, sit over his shoulder like this. He does end up with this big gray pylon next to his head, and a lot of the photo, if you look at a lot of the photos, it's clearly there, but they're shot from an angle to hide it. And this assembly comes up on the back, all the way up on the back here, like this. So this mushroom peg is even. Bring this around, and this is now going, there's a slot here. This is now going to tab into where the lion head was originally. And then this hinge right here comes forward, and this rotates right here, and it just kind of rests over the shoulder there. Then you fold the cap on the forearm down, and here's where you can see kind of a chip in that red, that dark spot. It's annoying, but I'd rather have it there than someplace more prominent. But yeah, it's just, I don't know if that's where there was a sprue or whatever, but it's a reddish plastic with a shiny red paint over it. And that's where, like, masterpieces either have flawed plastic or flawed paint, and you just can't seem to win. In some cases, like Hound, you'll have both. But close up the arms, rotate the hands around. And then on the back of the arm here, again, you can flip these around and flip the toes out as weapons. If you want to give him some slicey power and robot, give him some Wolverine slices on either arm. But otherwise, you rotate this whole assembly around, fold these up like this, and then you just kind of fold them up along the back behind his robot arms. It's a little weird, but well, that should go the other way. That's why. Wait, should it? No, I was right the first time. Okay, fine. There we go. But that's officially how they have it done. Even though you could, it seems easier to have this sit like this and then fold up, or flat like that. Rotate it like this and then fold it up. That just seems more pleasing to me. It sits closer along the back of his arm, but officially you're supposed to flip this around like this and do it this way, which I guess doesn't sit too far off, depending on how you do it. So you still have access. You can still flip, if you wish, these forward, although, and these can rotate as well, so you can have his missile launchers off his arms. A little more awkward, but they're there. And you see the slot there on the arm that this tabs into. He's got posable fingers, index finger, and then the next three, like a lot of them. The thumb has a little bit of articulation in it as well. You got wrist articulation this way, wrist articulation this way. Starting at the top, you do have a ball joint head, ratcheting shoulders outwards, as well as a swivel front to back, bicep swivel, dual hinged elbows, and there's a really tight ratchet at the upper bit, so be careful, but do know that is a ratchet there. He's got a waist swivel, dual hinge hips, thigh swivel. He's actually got two thigh swivels up here at the ball and right here for the transformation. Dual hinge knees. He's got the ankle swivel as well as the ankle tilt, and then the heel piece. Come on, yeah. Now, if you tab this on, this does kind of sit straight. If you want it at an angle, you don't have to leave it tabbed in. Honestly, half the time when you just have this sitting over the shoulder, just moving the arm wants to pop this off, I don't worry about keeping that tabbed in because it looks good sitting over his shoulder anyway. I do wish I can get the lion head to come down just a smidge more than it does. And I'm sure there's a way to do it, but yeah, there he is, looking really cool in robot mode. A little, there we go, a little blown out here. Pull it down a little bit. There we go. So as mentioned earlier, he can also he can hold. You can have him just carry weapons. You can kind of put this in his hand. The instructions show him holding it like this. Open the wrist up, wrapping his fingers around it, and kind of just carrying the parts. You can also use those pegs to have him hold this in his hand, kind of as if it were a weapon, like a secondary gun. And then he does have the blaster, which he can hold in his hand as well. I can get it in there. Come on. It's just a matter of getting the fingers closed enough to fit through there and there we go, get it in the tab. There he is with his blaster. He does have his opening matrix chamber on his chest, which is just painted. It doesn't glow or anything, but rather nice. Looking little chamber. There he is, all told. Now the instructions show, like again, he's got you can do the LIO Vute, whatever that is, by sticking that out. The instructions show his spinning main gimmick, and it does not operate, again, much like the old toy. It doesn't spin when you push a button. Technically, if you open this up, the main can spin around the head, but it's not even like a free spinning thing. Like you kind of have to work at it. It likes to get caught a lot. So you can use your imagination and pretend it spins, but it's really not. It's not the dynamic gimmick that the original had. So don't expect that. But the main's posable a little bit. You can fold it in or out to facilitate both robot parts moving or just for dramatic effect. However you wish. Let's go ahead and take that. I don't really like this. It's probably going to stay in the box. But the overall base robot looks fantastic. Like I said, some minor issues with some paint chipping on the red. The only paint chipping on the white I've seen is some of the moving parts inside, like the internal bits, which is something to watch out for. But like I said, less concerning to me that it's internal. It's all on pieces that you don't see in either mode. But still, I wish they'd get this paint chipping thing down. But I didn't have any fragile issues. I didn't have any areas where I felt like, oh, I'm gonna break this. It hasn't fallen apart the way Hound did. So that's an improvement. But lovely head sculpt. I really like how this guy just looks fantastic. And just again, since we did have him out here, he is as a comparison with his original Beast Wars toy. And again, that gimmick I was talking about, he doesn't have to close these all up. He doesn't have the spinny main gimmick that this guy does. But at the same time, I do think he looks a little cooler, all told. Let's go ahead and knock that back up. There we go. And you can actually see his face without having to pop those missile launchers. Like for my robot mode display, if you fold these missile launchers down, like his face is already kind of hidden by this main piece, but if you fold this down, it just blocks in front of his face. Like you couldn't really display him. You kind of have to display him in robot mode with these launchers up, whereas he can have just the kind of cool mane sitting off his shoulder. Wouldn't be quite right to show off LIO Convoy without sticking him next to Optimus Primal. Here, let's go ahead and... Wait, why aren't your eyes lighting up, buddy? Oh, there we go. Boop-a-da-boo. But they look nice together. Like I said, the LIO Convoy, he's just a beautiful looking robot. I do wish, like I said, I wish the pylon right next to his head could maybe sit a little bit further away from his head. I wish it just right up against the side of his head, although much better, as I mentioned, than the lion head on the original toy. But outside of that, like, I don't miss the spring functionality, especially I don't miss the way it would pop open and go all crazy. But just a really nice representation of LIO Convoy. I'm super stoked to be able to put him on the shelf next to Masterpiece Primal here. But there is MP-48 LIO Convoy.